Okay, let's jump right into what is, honestly, an incredible opportunity. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to build a complete step-by-step visual guide to navigating the 2027 MEXT Research Scholarship application. Look, if you've ever dreamt of doing research in Japan, you already know the MEXT Scholarship is basically the holy grail of academic grants. But the guidelines? They are dense, highly specific, and absolutely packed with bureaucratic hurdles. So that's exactly why we're here today. We're taking this intimidating 20-page document and turning it into a clear, actionable roadmap so you know exactly what it takes to apply.
But before we start dealing with all that paperwork, let's talk about the prize. Why is everyone fighting for this? Well, the benefits are literally life-changing. If you're selected, MEXT covers your university tuition 100%. That includes entrance exams and matriculation fees. Plus, they fly you round-trip economy class from your home country to Japan and back again when you graduate. It's effectively a completely free academic ride.
And it gets better. You actually get paid to study. Depending on your specific degree, you could be looking at a generous monthly allowance of up to 145,000 yen. To put that into perspective, in Japan, that is more than enough to cover your rent, your daily ramen or sushi runs, and your actual research activities. It basically lets you focus entirely on your academic goals without any of that typical student financial stress.
So to make this whole guideline document a lot more manageable, here's our agenda. We're looking at 1. Eligibility and requirements. 2. Your roadmap to Japan. 3. Screening and required documents. And 4. Securing provisional acceptance.
Starting with Section 1. Eligibility and requirements. Do you qualify? Let's tackle this first major hurdle and figure out if you actually meet MEXT's incredibly strict parameters to even submit an application.
First up, we need to decode what MEXT actually means when they say research student. It's actually a pretty broad umbrella. It covers people enrolled in a master's course, a doctoral course, or a professional graduate course. And interestingly enough, it also includes non-regular students who are just receiving preparatory Japanese language education before their formal degree placement starts.
Now, the absolutely crucial part is meeting the basic, non-negotiable criteria. You have to hold nationality from a country that has diplomatic relations with Japan. You need 16 to 18 years of completed formal education, and obviously you must be willing to learn Japanese and adapt to life there. But please, pay super close attention to the age requirement. You must have been born on or after April 2, 1992. That is a hard, strict cutoff. No exceptions for personal circumstances whatsoever.
And even if you meet those age and education requirements, you really need to make sure you don't fall into any of these strict disqualification traps. For instance, active military personnel or civilian military employees? Completely ineligible. What if you hold dual nationality with Japan? You're only eligible if you formally relinquish your Japanese citizenship before you arrive. And if you're already living in Japan as an international student or you're planning to double dip with other scholarships, your application is going to get rejected right out of the gate.
Moving on to Section 2, your roadmap to Japan, the step-by-step timeline. Assuming you do qualify and you steered clear of those restricted categories, let's map out your quest. Just a heads up, applying for MEXT is a year-long marathon.
This visualizes your whole journey. Chronologically, it all kicks off around mid-April 2026, which is when the call for applications officially opens at your local Japanese diplomatic mission. Then, between May and July, you've got the first screening. If you survive that, you face a hard deadline of September 1, 2026 to request provisional acceptance from universities. Fast forward to between January and March 2027, you finally get your results, and that sets you up to arrive in Japan in early April 2027. Section 3. Screening and required documents. The first trial. This is where things get intense. It's time to gather your documents for the first screening, handled directly by your local Japanese diplomatic mission.
Consider this checklist your absolute best friend. It translates all those dense bureaucratic requirements into a simple count of exactly how many original copies versus standard copies you're going to need. And listen closely, because missing even a single photocopy can get your application tossed out immediately. Notice that things like the application form only need one original. But for the really crucial documents, like your field of study, academic transcripts, and the specific 2027 medical certificate, you have to provide both an original and a copy.
Now, depending on your specific situation, you might also have to track down some conditional documents. Currently employed, you'll need a recommendation letter from your boss.
Applying for a fine arts or music program, you've got to submit a portfolio. And if you're handing in language proficiency certificates for Japanese or English, MEXT is very specific. They want 3 copies, and those certificates cannot be more than 2 years old.
Okay, so once your absolute mountain of paperwork is perfectly organized and handed in, the first screening begins. It's essentially 3 strict trials. First, the diplomatic mission reviews your documents to make sure your academic background meets their really elite standards. Next, everybody has to take written language exams in English and Japanese. Finally, if you make it through all that, you're sitting down for an in-person interview to defend your research purpose, explain why you chose Japan, and prove you can actually communicate with a future academic advisor.
Section 4. Securing Provisional Acceptance. The Final Trials. If you passed the first screening, huge congratulations. You just cleared a massive hurdle. But we're not done yet. Let's walk through the highly complex process of securing a provisional acceptance letter from a Japanese university.
I want you to look at this quote straight from the guidelines. I honestly cannot emphasize this enough. September 1st is the absolute final window. If you try reaching out to universities to request this letter on or after September 2nd, you will jeopardize your entire application. You have to initiate all your contacts before that strict cutoff. Miss the window, and the universities literally aren't permitted to issue the letter.
And when you do start emailing universities, it is definitely not a free-for-all. You have to follow these specific rules of engagement. Think of it like a strategic puzzle. You can list up to 3 preferred universities on your final forms, but you are only allowed to obtain a maximum of 2 provisional acceptance letters total. On top of that, you can only contact a maximum of 2 universities at the exact same time. Get rejected by one? Okay. Only then can you reach out to a third. And seriously, never try to bypass a rejection by just emailing a different professor at that exact same university.
So here is the exact step-by-step flow for requesting that golden provisional acceptance letter. Notice step 1 very carefully. You must contact the university's Division of International Student Affairs first. Please do not email the professor you want to study under directly. It's a huge faux pas and it could ruin your chances. Go through the official office, give them your official passing certificate from the first screening, plus the MEXT stamp document copies, and then you wait. Universities usually take about a month to process this formal letter. Once you've successfully navigated all of that and you finally have those acceptance letters in your hands, you can take a deep breath. The hardest part is over. Your last active step is just submitting your final placement preference application form back to the Japanese diplomatic mission. And remember, you update this form based strictly on which universities actually accepted you.
From November onwards, you can actually relax because the entire process is completely out of your hands. Here's the final stretch of your timeline. MEXT conducts the second screening over in Tokyo, and they finalize placements based on those provisional letters you worked so hard for. Then, between January and March 2027, you get the formal notification of your final placement. And finally, April 2027 rolls around, you board that plane, and officially begin your studies in Japan.
Yes, the timeline is completely unyielding, the rules are incredibly precise, and that document list is a lot to handle. But, as we've seen throughout this explainer, the payoff is just unparalleled. Your tuition is completely covered, your flights are paid for, and you get a generous monthly stipend to live on. So, armed with this step-by-step guide, are you ready to start your journey to Japan? Check your eligibility, mark those dates on your calendar, and start drafting that research plan today.